Chris introduced us to Joseph last week. His story is different from that of his father or his grandfather or his great-grandfather, Abraham. Instead of being one of 2 children, Joseph has 11 brothers. Reuben is the oldest. Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun are Joseph's half-brothers with Reuben through Leah, Jacob's first wife. He and Benjamin are the sons of Rachel, his second wife. Dan and Naphtali are half-brothers through Rachel's maid Bilhah, and Gad and Asher are also half-brothers through Leah's maid Zilpah. Jesus is on the younger end of a huge family, so there is no conflict for him about who will inherit what from his father. Now, I don't know if any of us have been in large families. I worked for John Tucker, who had 8 children. And when we would go to his house for a meal, it was interesting to have all of us, there were 11, crowded around with the 8 children and John and his wife and myself, and try to get some organization into that meal. So that's the kind of situation that Joseph finds himself in. Now, Chris told us last week that Joseph, as the younger son of Jacob, is his father's favorite and the recipient of a special robe with long colored sleeves. The brothers become jealous of him and seek to do him harm because of his dreams that seem to predict that he will dominate the family. And they're also angry at their father's favoritism towards this younger son. So, to deal with the situation, the brothers first conspire to kill him. But instead, sell him into slavery to some Midianite traders and tell their father that he has been killed by a wild animal. Joseph's life is a series of successes and downfalls. And this experience at the hands of his brothers is the first downfall. In Egypt, Joseph is sold to Potiphar, the captain of the guard of Pharaoh, who understands and sees that the Lord is with Joseph. Through Joseph, all that Potiphar had was blessed by the Lord, and life again was good for his servant Joseph. Things unravel when Potiphar's wife is angered because Joseph responds negatively to her responses. She conspires against him, lies to Potiphar, and Joseph is thrown into prison because of her accusations. So he's on the way down again. Even in prison, Joseph's future fortunes rise up again as he is blessed from the Lord by being able to interpret dreams. Both for himself, for the other prisoners, and for the chief jailer, who's charged with his care. His interpretations are accurate, and Pharaoh hears about them and is impressed. When no one else can interpret Pharaoh's dreams, Joseph is released from prison to go to Pharaoh. He interprets 2 dreams about famine and devises a plan for the country's survival through that famine. As a result, Joseph is elevated to second in command of all of Egypt, only after Pharaoh. Another upturn in his life. His family, struggling through the famine in Canaan, sends 10 brothers to Egypt to buy grain. Joseph does not identify himself to them on this first visit, instead insisting that when they return for more grain, they bring their younger brother Benjamin with them. Now Jacob, Benjamin and the brother's father, has misgivings about that. He's already lost one son to a wild animal, and he's unwilling to risk the other young son for any reason. However, the famine is severe, and the family must eat. So Benjamin is sent with his brothers on a return trip to Egypt to buy more grain. Joseph now turns into the conspirator. He hides his silver cup in Benjamin's pack and later accuses Benjamin of stealing it from him. After he's detained Benjamin, Judah and the other brothers plead with him for Benjamin's safe return to their father. The brothers confess at this point that they are responsible for the loss of their other young brother to a wild animal, and they tell Joseph the truth of the story that he's already lived through. That brings us to this morning's Old Testament reading. With the confession of his brothers, Joseph is overcome with emotion, and he reveals his identity to them. Of course, they're fearful, and they are concerned that he will now extract vengeance against them for this harmful act. But Joseph knows better. He forgives his brothers, saying, "So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me the father to Pharaoh, and Lord of all his house, and ruler over all of Egypt." Joseph has learned, over the ups and downs of his life, that the evil plans of others are often used by God for the accomplishment of God's purposes. It was God's plan for the continuation of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that all of these things might be accomplished through Joseph, in spite of the sibling rivalry that threatens his life. God has been there with him through all the ups and downs, through his dreams, and given him the ability to interpret the dreams of others. Joseph's faith that God was with him has allowed him to prevail through both the good and the bad times of his life. Joseph's connection with the Lord through his dreams and the dreams of others are the basis for his faith in God. A faith that is similar to that of the Canaanite woman who appeals to Jesus to heal her daughter's demon. When she first appeals to him, he rejects her appeal because she's not one of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Despite the rejection, the woman kneels before him and calls him Lord and begs for his help. Jesus' response to this appeal is an insult. He calls her and the people of Canaan dogs. who should not be fed before the Jewish people are cared for. That does not deter the Canaanite woman. She continues her appeal. And Jesus' heart is melted when she says, "Yes, Lord, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." The woman's faith in the healing power of Jesus convinces him to perform the exorcism, and her daughter is healed immediately. Now, this is not the first time Jesus has intervened on behalf of those who have even small amounts of faith to perform a miracle. Jesus heals the centurion's servant without going to the centurion's home in Matthew chapter 8, verse 13. He heals a paralyzed man who was carried to him on a bed because of the faith of the friends who carried him to that bed, carried him to Jesus. And he heals a woman whose faith leads her simply to touch his cloak. He restores the sight of two blind men who came to him because they believed that he had the power to restore sight. In each of these circumstances, a little faith in Jesus brings people closer to him. Their faith is rewarded when their condition or the condition of those they have presented to Jesus is overcome. So here we are, amid the coronavirus pandemic. It seems like God has forgotten his people as we struggle to open churches for face-to-face worship without putting people in danger of exposure to the virus. I was saddened this week when I saw on Syracuse.com that all of the people in 4 churches in Syracuse were exposed to COVID-19. It takes faith in God in the midst of pandemic to overcome our fears. It takes faith to believe that Jesus Christ cares for us and is ready and willing to minister to us in the presence of this hidden enemy, our virus. Despite all we're going through, the ups and downs of isolation and social distancing, the wearing of face coverings in the presence of God, God is still here with us, just as he was with Joseph when he was going through so many ups and downs. Jesus still cares for us, even as he cared for and ministered to the Canaanite woman and others during his earthly ministry. So it's up to us to use the gifts that we have to see that his church prevails through these difficult times. Will we dream dreams of a brighter future and act on those dreams to achieve the reality of a new way of worshiping God? Do we have faith in God and his Son that his plans for us and his world will prevail through the pandemic? Are we ready to connect with Jesus Christ, to dream with him, and to walk with him as we care for ourselves and others in this time of trial? These acts of faith, dreaming and walking with God, are the little things we need to do if we're to come out of the pandemic a better, closer family of God than we may have been before we started. The human condition is always a series of ups and downs. staying close to God. Got Joseph through his many crises. Getting close to Jesus got the Canaanite woman and her daughter through their difficulties. Now it's our turn. Little acts of faith will keep us close to God and his Son, Jesus Christ. These acts of faith will carry us through to a better tomorrow in God's kingdom here on earth.